very rare Wednesday night live stream. I don't think I've actually done one on a Wednesday night before. Normally, it's Friday nights, 11:30, although I think we're going to go earlier this Friday, maybe 10 o'clock. But why am I doing a live stream at, midnight on a Wednesday night? Because there's a big story, which I really need to cover. And I'd already done 2 videos earlier tonight. I did one on possible leadership review for Trudeau in Canada, which I don't think that's going to happen, but it's a good video. You should watch it. And another video about a doctor in Quebec. Canada's absolutely insane. Although it seems like everywhere is actually, but a doctor in Quebec who was suspended because he called a biological woman a biological woman. That's right. So I encourage you to watch that one. I mean, it is kind of maddening, but it's also kind of funny too. I guess there's a couple of jokes in there, mostly maddening though, but I encourage you to check it out. But this story, I did want to do something tonight on this story, so I'm just going live because no editing. So that's a lot easier. And this story is obviously Texas versus the Biden administration. So the Supreme Court, so the Biden administration had been suing Texas, to allow, because Texas was trying to protect its own border with Mexico. And the Biden administration didn't want them to do that. They wanted to be able to go in and take down the barriers, like the barbed wire that Texas had set up, that Abbott, the governor of Texas, had set up. I mean, unbelievably. I mean, it's so far beyond anything I could possibly have imagined that you would have an administration of the United States, the most powerful country in the world, actively trying to stop its own states from allowing millions of people into the country illegally, people who they don't even know who they are because they throw their ID away before they cross the border. It's like alternate universe shit, right? So they were suing Texas to be able to stop Texas from protecting its own borders. The Supreme Court, shockingly, sided with Biden on that. And now Greg Abbott is saying, no. He's saying Texas has a constitutional right to defend its borders from invasion and supersedes all federal law. So what's Tim Pool doing right now? He talks about Civil War an awful lot. And I mean, I like Tim Pool. I watch Timcast, not all the time, but I watch it often enough. And but he does talk about Civil War an awful lot, doesn't he? And yeah, I'm not going to say anything else. But Greg Abbott has released a letter about this, and I'm going to read this for you. And we're just going to go over the facts on this because it's just, I mean, it's stunning that this is even a story. It's incredible. Again, it's incredible to see an administration, a president of the United States, actively facilitating I mean, for all the world, it looks like he's colluding with drug cartels to flood his own country with millions of people illegally. It's up to what, 9 million, maybe 10 million now in just 3 years? And he's actively trying to prevent anything from stopping those people, his own states from preventing that. I mean, it's so transparent, right? I mean, the press secretary can say, oh, no, the border's secure, but it's clearly not. Does anybody believe it? I don't think so. I mean, it's just the ultimate gaslighting at this point, isn't it? I mean, this is a historic moment in history. This is something that will be pored over by future historians. I mean, if there are any. You know, if the communists don't take over and just fuck everything up. But anyway, let's read this letter from Governor Greg Abbott. July 24th, 2024. The federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states. The executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, including immigration laws on the books right now. President Biden has refused to enforce those laws and has even violated them. The result is that he has smashed records for illegal immigration. Smashed records for illegal immigration. Despite having been put on notice in a series of letters, one of which I delivered to him by hand, President Biden has ignored Texas's demand that he perform his constitutional duties. President Biden has violated his oath to faithfully execute immigration laws enacted by Congress. Instead of prosecuting immigrants for the federal crime of illegal entry, President Biden has sent his lawyers into federal courts to sue Texas for taking action to secure the border. I mean, this is just surreal, is it not? It's bizarre. I mean, let's read that again. President Biden has sent his lawyers into federal courts to sue Texas for taking action to secure the border. Amazing. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes that mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. The effect is to illegally allow en masse parole into the United States. By wasting taxpayer dollars to tear open Texas's border security infrastructure, President Biden has enticed illegal immigrants away from the 28 legal entry points along the state's southern border, bridges where nobody drowns, and into the dangerous waters of the Rio Grande. I mean, it's just, you're reading this and you think, this is real? This is true? This is actually happening? It's like something out of like a dystopian novel or movie or something. Truly bizarre. Under President Biden's lawless border policies, more than 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed our southern border in just 3 years. And I think he's just talking about Texas there, because I believe it's about 9 or 10 million in total. That is more than the population of 33 different states in this country. This illegal refusal to protect the states has inflicted unprecedented harm on the people all across the United States. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and the other visionaries who wrote the U.S. Constitution foresaw that the states should be left to foresaw that states should not be left to the mercy of a lawless president who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across the border. I mean, I just got to read that one more time. External threats like cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across the border, and Biden is actively in the open trying to help them. I mean, again, it's like alternate reality stuff. This is why the framers included both Article 4, Section 4, which promises that the federal government, quote, shall protect each state against invasion, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which acknowledges the state's sovereign interest in protecting their borders. The state's sovereign interest in protecting their borders. And I guess that's what Abbott is appealing to there. The state's own sovereign interest. The failure of the Biden administration to fulfill the duties imposed by Article 4, Section 4 has triggered Article 1, Section 1, Clause 3, which reserves to this state the right of self-defense. For these reasons, I have already declared an invasion under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. The Texas National Guard, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and other Texas personnel are acting on that authority, as well as state law, to secure the Texas border. So, yeah, he's saying that You don't have a say in it. He's saying that to the Biden administration. He's saying that Biden is refusing to protect Texas, to protect Texas's borders, as well as the rest of the United States, which is just demonstrably true. Yeah, I don't see any other way it can be interpreted. I mean, when you're literally suing them to stop them from preventing people from crossing the border illegally, when you're suing to have the right to take down the barricades like barbed wire, razor wire that they've put up, you're clearly facilitating it, right? Like you're not fulfilling your obligation to protect them and protect their sovereignty. So I don't it's just the strangest thing. It's surreal, it's bizarre, and I mean, is this the real insurrection? Like not Texas, I don't know. I mean, look, I don't know. I'm talking from Canada, right? I'm educating Canadians over here. But from an from the outside, it looks fucking insane. Like it looks like it is exactly what it looks like, if you know what I'm saying. It's bizarre. I don't even know if Trudeau could get away with that. I mean, although with Trudeau, he just brings them in actually legally, even though nobody actually wants, millions of more people. But anyway, that's another thing. You can watch all my videos. Subscribe to the channel. You can watch all my videos where I hate on Justin Trudeau. I'm good at it. So Texas has constitutional right to defend its borders from invasion, supersedes all federal law. That's what Abbott is saying. But hold on. But what's happening? Oh, before we get to that, there is one thing. Is it down here I want to get to? Before we get to that, okay, so Abbott is not alone. He's got allies in this. So, former Republican presidential candidate and current Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said his state will continue assisting Texas. Quote, if the Constitution really made states powerless to defend themselves against an invasion, it wouldn't have been ratified in the first place, and Texas would have never joined the union when it did. DeSantis posted on X. Texas is upholding the law while Biden is flouting it. Florida will keep assisting. So he's got Ted DeSantis behind him. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt, also a Republican, reposted a video on X of the Texas National Guard marching. Quote, Oklahoma stands with Texas, Stitt wrote. Now, what all that means, I don't know exactly. But it's vocal support. Now, in the morning, who knows who else will have joined in on that? I expect others. But in the meantime, Dems call on Biden to seize control of the Texas National Guard as GOP allies back Abbott. So this is the thing. So Texas is saying they're not going to let federal officers or military or anything come in and fuck with their border shit. And that's where the Civil War talks come in, because, I mean, is it possible that there could be shots fired, between, federal and state actors? That's the scary thing. That's, when, bringing up Tim Pool, talking about the Civil War, right? That's a scary thing. So the Dems' idea is just to take control of the Texas National Guard. Can they do that? I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff that's going to have to unfold. I mean, it's hard to believe I'm even saying these words because it's so crazy. It's so crazy. It's bizarre that the media seems kind of uninterested in the whole problem of there being millions of people flooding across the border. And the executive branch is doing absolutely nothing. In fact, encouraging it. In fact, again, seemingly colluding with cartels. It's surreal to be saying these words. It's unbelievable. I mean, I can't really stress enough. And it's unbelievable that like the media is completely out to lunch. In fact, supports every insane thing that Biden does overwhelmingly, enthusiastically. When what's her name? Karine Jean Pierre comes out and says, "Oh, the border's secure." They all just nod along and say, "Oh, well, that's a relief. That's a relief. Only 300,000 people crossed this month." Or some administration talking head says, "Oh, no, it's all secure. No, it's not a problem. No, the Republicans are the problem." Well, it's not long. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that sounds reasonable. Of course. It's truly bizarre, and I never thought things would get this crazy. But anyway, I don't think I'm overstating the point here. So the Dems want Biden to seize control of the Texas National Guard. What are they saying? Saying, while Abbott issues statements about the Biden administration overstepping its authority, Democratic lawmakers like Representative Greg Casar, a Democrat from Texas, is accusing the governor of taking a play out of the former President Trump's playbook. Of course, because that seems to be all they fucking do. Oh, it was Trump. Greg Abbott has continued to use political stunts and inflammatory language to advance his own agenda, violating the Constitution and endangering both U.S. citizens and asylum seekers. Kassar posted on X. Quote, Abbott is following the Donald Trump playbook, making immigration harder and more dangerous. So asylum seekers are pushed into the hands of cartels and the system remains broken. Wow, they must think that everybody is a complete fucking retard. It's amazing how consistently and effortlessly they just claim that everybody else is doing exactly what they're actually doing. Apparently, the public tide is turning. It's turning. Apparently, the biggest issue in the United States right now is immigration. And would it upset them that much to make immigration? And of course, what we mean with immigration is illegal immigration. Would it really upset them that much to make illegal immigration harder? Will they even care if it's more dangerous? I mean, there'd be a lot less danger because there'd be less people making the journey if they knew that it was going to be fruitless for them, right? He says, so asylum seekers are pushed into the hands of cartels. No, that the cartels are the ones who get them there. They've already been through the cartels before they get to the American border. Again, these people must think that everybody is a complete moron. And, in fairness, some people are. Casar continued with a string of posts saying he agreed with Representative Joaquin Castro, Democrat from Texas, who on Tuesday tweeted Biden should seize control of the Texas National Guard. So, I mean, it's very much actually up in the air whether or not he could actually do that. I took a bit of a look into it. Texas Public Radio, KSTX, they've got an article here. Federalizing the Texas National Guard, Democrats consider ways to wrest Shelby Park from Texas's control. So it says here, the National Guard is a unique entity in that it answers to both state and federal governments. Troops can be mobilized by a state governor or the president, depending on need. The National Guard personnel restricting access to Shelby Park are on state orders as part of Operation Lone Star, Abbott's sweeping border security initiative. In theory, the president or the defense secretary could divert those troops by tasking them with a federal mission. There's a variety of statutes that allow the president to federalize the National Guard in different circumstances, But the only one that would clearly apply in this case is the Insurrection Act, said Joseph Nunn, counsel at the Brennan Center's Liberty and National Security Program. Nunn described the Insurrection Act as a, quote, nuclear bomb hidden in the United States Code, and explained that using it would be politically costly. He continues, the Insurrection Act gives the president sole discretion to decide whether the criteria for invoking it are met. There are quite literally no safeguards to stop it from being used. So, I mean, Biden's been going pretty crazy on the executive orders with the student loan stuff and everything. I don't think that let's be honest, the people that are handling him, like the people that are making the decisions, I don't think would they be shy about attempting to use it? Would they care if it would be politically costly? I mean, continuing the endless flood of people across the border illegally is politically costly, right? I don't know. I mean, things are going to come to a head somehow, right? The whole thing is insane. I mean, in an election year, his popularity is already, what is it now? About 38%? I believe it's about 38% right now. He's losing to Trump in all of the polls. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he has faith in the ability of the Democrats to, fortify things in November, but it all strikes me as just frankly fucking bonkers. Completely bonkers. Let's see what Matt Walsh had to say. He says, Abbott has Biden over a barrel here. What is Biden going to do? Send the military in to forcibly open the border in an election year? I'm sure he'd like to, and would if he could get away with it, but it would turn the vast majority of the country against him, those who aren't already against him anyway. The question is, does he care? I mean, it seems to be the grand priority, the grand mission, the unofficial policy of the Biden administration to just simply flood the country with as many people illegally as he can. And I'm sure he'd like another 4 years of that, which would probably bring the total up to about 20 million people. But I mean, if you're suing Texas to prevent them from stopping people from flooding into the country, when you already know deep blue places like New York, Chicago, the people are up in arms. Now that it's, the reality of being a sanctuary city in an open borders country, now that the reality of that is actually touching them, they're up in arms. It may well affect the black vote in the United States, possibly. I'm not saying they would lose it, but it could eat into it for sure, because their communities are being hit hard with it, right? So it's not rational. None of it's rational, right? Not if you're worried about losing an election. It's not rational. In fact, it's downright bizarre. I mean, I guess maybe just the faith in the power of the mainstream, of the legacy media to drive the narrative, to socially engineer the public, the voting public. Perhaps their confidence in that is just so strong that they don't care. But I mean, that's gone awry in the past, hasn't it? It definitely has. And is there a point where you could be your policies could be so damaging that it would still work? I'm not sure. So I think that's it. I mean, I wanted to cover this, what I know so far, and I think we've done a decent job. We've asked a few questions. Um, should we look at a couple of memes before we call it a night? Is anybody watching who wants me to continue? You can let me know in the chat. Although there's not many people out there right now. It is a Wednesday night, late Wednesday night after all. Let's see. It says here, Joe Biden hates all Americans. Follow if you agree. Let's see. I come to America. Yes, welcome home, weary traveler. I go here. No, we don't have the resources. Well, that's what's happening in these, deep blue cities, that are the people voted to be sanctuary cities, right? I guess they just didn't expect that it was going to come home to them, that it would ever touch them in the way that it was touching. I mean, I'm sure they had no idea the way that it was affecting border communities. But now they're getting a taste of it and they're not liking it at all. At all. Is there anything of interest here? Well, I think that's all the Texas stuff we got. Let's go through a couple of memes here. Not too many because I want to save a bunch for Friday night. Again, I think we're going to go earlier this Friday instead of 11:30 until like 4 o'clock in the morning. I think I went till 5 o'clock in the morning last weekend, Friday night into Saturday. I think we're going to start a little earlier because I think it's actually bad for my health to live stream that late for that many hours. So I think we might start at like 10, maybe even 9:30. I don't know. Maybe I'll be more energetic. This is funny. I don't know. I'm just going to play this for you.
I'm somewhere in Austria. I have no idea where. I'm frankly scared. There's a cisgender heterosexual man looking at me strangely. I'm in some sort of service station, absolutely nowhere near Tuscany yet. I'm going to be writing about this experience in my Guardian column next week.
Writing about it in his Guardian column. There's a cisgender heterosexual man. Is that real? I want to know. Is that real? I want to know what the audience thinks. Put it in the comments if you're watching this afterwards, the replay. Is that real? I kind of want to believe it's real, but it's too ridiculous. But then, I mean, what isn't too ridiculous these days? I swear to God that, the progressives are trying to kill satire. They're trying to make everything too ridiculous to make it any more funny than it already is. Well, I guess funny or sad or tragic or one of those. How about this? Redditor is distraught that her 18-year-old daughter refuses to have kids before marriage. That's before marriage, and wants to be married by age 25. So something's happening. I think maybe young people are becoming disenchanted with where liberalism has gone. Because it's gone to a kind of a weird extreme place where that isn't really, I guess maybe young people are picking up on the fact that it's not necessarily, total selfishness is not necessarily the road to human well-being. Maybe they've been reading Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules or something. I don't know. But I kind of feel this might be a trend starting to happen. Let's take a look. Daughter who is 18. So this is a mother. This is a mother who's really upset that their daughter wants to be basically like a trad wife. Daughter who is 18 seems obsessed with the idea of a family of her own, marriage and children. Now, maybe this is because, the dream of being the high-powered executive lady, girl boss, is becoming transparently unlikely for them. It's more just a life in a cubicle, right? Life in a cubicle, a cat at home, and a box of wine. And it hardly seems worth it. So that it does seem like a better life, doesn't it? I think it is a better life. Being able to raise your family, raise your kids, and be at home. I think for the majority of women, I think that's going to become more and more appealing than a life of just servitude in a cubicle with a bunch of people who don't really give a shit about you and certainly aren't going to be there on your deathbed. Now, of course, there are women, because it's all on a curve, right? They're never talking about everybody. Of course, there's women who actually should never be mothers. They're not maternal. It's not going to be for everybody, but we're always talking about averages here. So it looks like we got some people coming in who just completely missed that whole Texas thing, Texas Biden administration thing. You should watch it after we're done this. You should watch the replay of it, because unless you already know everything there is to know, but we just kind of go over it. We kind of went over it and just looked at what the facts are, how the facts stand as they are right now. Anyway, back to this daughter who doesn't want to be an office slut. Admittedly, I, female 50, have not set a good example. That's not surprising. With me and her dad fighting, and other family fights may have caused it. So her daughter wants to have a wholesome life, and she's upset about it. She wasn't a good example, and all the fighting might have turned her to wanting to have a nice, simple, wholesome life, which the mother is horrified at. We were never married, but now she is entirely sure she will never have children outside of marriage. I mean, that used to be a thing that parents were really happy about, right? I think most still would be happy about that, would they not? But okay. And that she will marry young. She wants children and a husband before 25, and has been already saving for a house of her own, etc. I mean, this all sounds like a really, really good, like somebody with a good head on their shoulders. I mean, doesn't it feel, I mean, look, I'm no Puritan, right? I'm no Puritan, but this just feels entirely like this female 50 talking about her daughter, horrified that she wants to actually live like, a good, like, moral life. It feels like just an insane level of degeneracy to me. It's amazing that this kid turned out all right. She began attending a new Orthodox church a year ago and has since become more and more religious. She met a boy at church who is from a wealthy Canadian family. He is nice, but also incredibly religious, but a man of few words. He is 3 years older than her. And if I am honest, I am not keen on him. So she's 18 and he's 21. Wow. I mean, that'll never work, right? What is that? That's like a January and earlier in January wedding, right? All right. Blah, blah, blah. He's 3 years older than her. She doesn't like him. I mean, he's one of those awful Christians and from a wealthy family. Ooh, nice. I mean, can't she do better than that? Nice. Christian and wealthy. Wow. She should be trying to meet, I don't know, an athlete. She'd be trying to meet a football player or maybe a rock star. Let's see. Her plan is she will get a degree in midwifery, and once she is married, she will stay at home, which I think is unfeasible with the cost of living crisis, etc. If I am honest, I do not think she will even end up in university. Oh, heaven forbid, heaven forfend. And she has done barely any work for her upcoming exams. I should add, none of her siblings are the same. In fact, 2 have children outside of marriage, and none of us are religious, only baptized as babies. So it is so bizarre where all this came from. And it seems backwards. Wanting to have a good life seems backwards to worst mother in history. I mean, she didn't mention anything about being a meth addict yet, but I don't know. I'm reading between the lines here. What a fucked up person. That's a symptom of a degenerate society. And I don't mean that in like, again, I'm not like a Puritan, but I just mean in a societal breakdown kind of way. It seems backwards to her that her daughter wants to actually have a good, respectable life. She'd rather that she be like the other children who have kids outside of marriage and aren't religious, I mean, look, I'm not religious either, but I respect it. I respect Christianity. You know, one of the things I respect about is the whole give unto Caesar what is Caesar and give unto God what is God's, which places it as a personal God, you know? And you personally are responsible for your own faith. So it's not your ancestors aren't, your kids aren't. It's you and it's personal responsibility. Fundamentally, that's the core of that, which is something I respect and I think is good. So even though I'm not a religious man myself, I can appreciate parts of this and I can appreciate the contribution to Western civilization. And I think this awful meth head mother lady is just, I'm assuming meth head. I'm just assuming that. Could be way off. Could just be endless boxes of wine. I don't know. Anyway, what can I do to help her with the situation? What you can do to help your daughter is stay the fuck away from her. That's what you can do. She will not see the dangers. What dangers? The danger of perhaps like having a nice family and a good life and not wasting your life toiling in an office? Truly weird. I mean, maybe this is just trolling. Maybe this isn't even real. I don't know. It's the internet. It could be anything. I should also add she is slowly cutting off contact with my side of the family. Wow, what a surprise. Smart girl, too. Her dad's side are distant as it is, they are scattered worldwide, but we are mostly in the same country. I am moving away in a year or two to live with one of my older children, and I think she may cut off contact with me entirely then. Female 18 daughter seems to be becoming a trad wife, and I, female 50, am concerned she is going to ruin her life. Ah, dear. Well, it takes all kinds, doesn't it? Takes all kinds. All right. Maybe we'll find one more before we call it a night. Actually, I want to watch this. So here's Pierre Poilievre. Who is he? Let me see if I can
Mr.
shrink
Trudeau.
this a bit. Hold on. This is Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, and God willing, he will be the next Prime Minister of Canada after we finally get rid of the disgrace that is Justin Trudeau. And yeah, he's pretty popular right now. Trudeau's very unpopular. He's gained a lot of popularity, and he's crushing Trudeau in the polls. If the election were today, I think it's pretty clear there'd be a majority government, conservative majority government, probably by a fair margin. It's a different it's parliamentary system in Canada if you're watching from the States or somewhere else. So it's a little different. But anyway, I'm just saying, if the election's today, he wins by a lot. So let's take a look.
I want to talk about the terrible existential crisis to the entire universe, which of course is pizza ovens. I know that Prime Minister Trudeau and his federal agency have launched an outright crusade against pizza ovens. They started in Montreal, but we know that they will get out here to Vancouver. So Vancouverites who are locked in their homes and terrified of pizza ovens should be at ease that Justin Trudeau will come to your rescue. Don't worry about your 100% rent increase or the fact that you can't feed yourself. Justin Trudeau is spending your money going after pizza ovens here and everywhere, and he will not stop until this crisis is resolved.
So I hadn't watched that yet, but that's in character. That's why Canadians are liking him more and more and more. And in fact, I've had a lot of Americans commenting too, how much they like Poilievre, especially the whole Apple interview where he's chomping on the apple, or he's just humiliating that woke activist journalist who's asking him stupid questions. I'm surprised by the level of interest in my Canadian videos, the Canadian stories that I cover from outside of Canada. And there seems to be an increase. I think it's since the Freedom Convoy. Because I think the Freedom Convoy inspired a lot of people, a lot of movements around the world, certainly in Europe. Um, so I've noticed there's been an increase in Canadian politics. I guess when you have a villain such as Justin Trudeau, that helps to draw up interest and perhaps a sense of solidarity between, not just conservatives, but just sane people, right? Because the battle that we're in, I've been saying now for a while. I mean, it's between sanity and lunacy. It's between batshit crazy and just normal, right? Poilievre has been saying, that the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada has been saying, it's common sense. He's been talking about common sense policies instead of crazy far left policies. So I think having such a polarizing and easily vilifiable character of, low repute like Justin Trudeau, I think it's created more interest because, villains are interesting, right? Tyrants are interesting. They're horrible, but they're interesting. So, yeah, I've noticed more interest, especially since the Freedom Convoy, since the trucker convoy. Which is good. It's heartening to me, and it gives me, I think that conservatives need to have a sense of solidarity across the West because we're under attack. And it's not just conservatives, like traditional liberals. I mean, look, most of my adult life, I was just like a traditional liberal, free speech, individual rights. And I was more lefty on the economic issues than I am now. I started changing my mind around 10 years ago when I saw that the people calling themselves liberals all of a sudden didn't like free speech anymore. And of course, it's such a crucial factor in a free society. I mean, you can't have one without it. That I said, well, as soon as I saw what was happening, like in Berkeley and amongst left-wing politicians, people like Trudeau, for instance, I said, well, I don't want anything to do with these people, so I'm going to reassess because that's not the way. And I've obviously moved more conservative in pretty much in every way, although, I'm still, I think, pretty libertarian socially. Libertarian maybe pushing it a little bit too far. I'm definitely very opposed to what's happening in schools with the, I do not think it's appropriate or healthy to conduct a giant social experiment on a generation of children by, for instance, telling 5-year-olds that they might be born in the wrong body. To me, that strikes me as utterly insane and reckless. So I'm not that libertarian. I will tell you that. And I'm also reassessing some of my ideas about, legalization of drugs. Seems to me this might have been a mistake. Yeah, if you're looking at a place like Vancouver, Canada, or just across Canada now, actually, where they're actually giving away free, in Vancouver, they give away free meth, heroin, crack, since they brought in progressive harm management um, uh, policies into British Columbia, into Vancouver, about 20 years ago, you've had a tenfold increase. Yeah, you've had an order of magnitude increase in the number of overdoses, right? So this is all stuff I would have wholeheartedly backed, maybe 10, 15 years ago. Now I'm looking at the evidence, and it's clear that it's not harm reduction. It's harm increase, clearly. I mean, people are dying needlessly. So I'm reevaluating a lot of my thoughts, actually. I have already, but I continue to do so. And, my hope is to err on the side of not fucking crazy. Just reality. I find that when woke and reality meet, it just, when they conflict with each other, reality just always has a better argument because it's based in actual reality, not in an unbending ideology that is only interested in perpetuating itself. Apparently, just purely for the reason of perpetuating itself, right? Whereas if you're looking at if you're applying common sense and you're interrogating reality, what matters then? Well, what matters is actual human well-being and flourishing, right? You can detach yourself from being enslaved by some crackpot ideology like gender theory or communism, for instance. You can just take a look at things objectively and say, well, that didn't work. Oh dear, 120 million people dead. Oh, well, that didn't work. I guess we better not do that. Communists don't do that, though, for some reason. I don't know why. Honestly, I can't understand how anybody would be that stupid. But anyway, it looks like we got some more people jumping in. Maybe I better keep going. All right, what do we got next? So I don't know if you guys have seen this. So at New Hampshire, at the New Hampshire primary, looks like 70% of the people who voted for Nikki Haley, were Democrats. I mean, there's some evidence of this. Look at this guy.
Nikki Haley.
And why did you vote for Nikki Haley?
It's a vote against Trump. I think it would be better to have her against Biden in the elections than it would be Trump and her.
Do you consider yourself generally independent, Republican, or Democrat?
Democrat.
So when you undeclared, you voted for Nikki Haley. If it was Nikki Haley against Joe Biden in a general election, who are you voting for?
Joe Biden.
What is the
Nikki Haley.
and why did you?
So when we say that the modern left has no principles, this is what we're talking about. Just don't give a shit. It's just about power. While that guy was standing there giving that interview, Joe Biden was suing Texas to prevent them from protecting their borders. He was suing Texas so that he could have people go in and take down the razor wire, the border barriers that Texas had put up to stop people from illegally entering the country. So this guy went out in the snow to vote for Nikki Haley because he thinks she'd be easier for Biden to beat. This is a cult member, people. Folks, this guy is in a cult. That's batshit crazy. That's absolutely insane. Is it just team sports? What is it? Is it just that? I mean, I have this theory that really what the modern leftist runs on, what the progressive runs on, is that there are no principles. There's no foundational ideas. They don't even believe in objective reality. So how could there be? It's just what feels left and what their Facebook friends would find or their Instagram friends would find acceptable and would give them a like for. Doesn't matter if they contradict themselves. Doesn't matter if they say one thing and then 10 seconds later they say another thing. If that feels like the left-wing thing or the progressive thing to say, that's where they go. They're just going with the wind. That's it. Which is, a terrifying thing. And that's how you get somebody like this who's so committed to it. He will be so proud of this. He'll be posting this on his social media. I have a theory that if it weren't for social media, the leftist protests, there wouldn't be many people at them. If people can post a selfie of themselves at the protest, whatever it's for, whatever leftist thing it's for, if they couldn't post a selfie of themselves being there, they wouldn't fucking go. They don't even know what the protest is about. We have men on the street videos. They show up, they ask them. People, they don't even know what they're protesting for. They're there to get a selfie, post it on their social media, and get a bunch of likes, a bunch of endorphin hits. If they couldn't do that, they wouldn't bother showing up because they don't actually care. Anyway. Get this. So here's So a federal court ruled in Canada that Justin Trudeau's invoking of the Emergencies Act in Canada in 2022 to crush the trucker protest, the Freedom Convoy, a federal judge has ruled that to have been unconstitutional. Shouldn't have happened. It was not justified. Now they're going to appeal this, obviously. But that's a big deal. I made a couple of videos about Trudeau, kind of touching on this issue. One specifically on that. I put out another one earlier today. Not a live, one of my regular videos, that's edited nicely and everything. So I encourage you to subscribe so you can watch those. It's very good. But here's Chrystia Freeland now. Now, I call her a human sloth hybrid. Trudeau's attack human sloth hybrid. She's the deputy prime minister of Canada, also the finance minister. But she's Trudeau's number 2. So instead of immediately going out and confronting this loss in the courts himself, he sends her out. And, you guys will see. Let's take a look.
The decision seems to single out some of your choices on freezing bank accounts and credit cards as being part of the reason where it's unreasonable in terms of the measures taken by the government. You defended those when you announced them at the time. Do you have any regrets on taking that measure in the light of this decision? Would you have done it differently based on what we've seen from the federal court today?
As I said in my opening remarks, we faced, as a country and as a government, an incredibly serious threat. A threat.
No, you didn't. And the court just found that you didn't. The bouncy castles weren't a threat. I mean, the media lied through its teeth. Trudeau immediately demonized the truckers as a fringe minority with unacceptable views. The bought and paid for media, the subsidized media in Canada, got the hint and immediately set out attacking. They accused them of trying to light an apartment building on fire. Well, that was fake. They tried to. There was anti-Semitic materials there. Oh, that was fake. That wasn't there. That was something from Miami. They called them racist, even though it was diverse. Right? It was more diverse than a fucking Antifa rally. You had Sikhs there. You had Sikhs setting up a food kitchen. You had indigenous people there, drum circles. But they called them Nazis and racist. They said that they were funded by those scary, those terrifying, shadowy far right in the United States. They're white supremacists. That's right. White supremacists. Truckers, it's like 40% of them in Canada are Sikh, right? Pretty sure they're not white supremacists. And there was plenty of them there at the convoy. They smeared. The CBC published a piece saying that freedom, the word freedom, was a far-right dog whistle. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, folks. It's absurd. The CBC mused that perhaps Putin was behind it all. I mean, that was probably the least surprising, idiotic contribution from the CBC. I believe there was a time there when that's several years actually when everything. I mean, can't find the TV remote. That was Putin. There's a Putin hiding behind every corner. Children are terrified of the Putin coming out from under the bed in the middle of the night. Ooh, it's scary. It's a nightmare. But no, Chrystia Freeland, no, there was not a great danger
To the public safety of many Canadians, a threat to our national
The threat to public safety was when they sent the thugs in to attack them.
security, including our national economic security. We acted to secure and protect Canada and to secure and protect the national interest. It was not an easy time. These were not easy decisions. In making our decisions and choosing to act, we worked very, very hard with all levels of government. And we were very mindful of acting in such a way that the safety, the physical safety of all Canadians involved would be preserved. We
Bullshit. I can barely stand listening to her. Barely stand it. I can barely stand listening to Trudeau. I mean, maybe she's slightly less grating on my brain. I don't know. She's extremely irritating to listen to. She's aggressively mediocre as a human being. 100% tedious. And she's full of shit. Eddie Hillcock says, shout out Sikhs, shout out First Nation, shout out Texas. Email your U.S. state governor and demand support for Texas. Yeah, I mean, it's so outrageous what the Biden administration is doing. I mean, you've never seen anything like it. Again, this is going to be stuff that's poured over by future historians. You know, the context in which they'll be pouring over that is what's at question now. You know, I mean, is this truly late Empire stage? You know, is this why, 95% of men think about the Roman Empire every day? I know I do. Well, maybe not every day, but several times per week for sure. Anyway, that's what we have to put up with in Canada. Bloody awful. This is interesting. Let's take a look at this. I think this is some good advice for young people.
Don't go to school. Don't go to college. Don't get a degree. Don't go to school. Like, unless the only way you can make your parents proud is by being an unemployed alcoholic for 4 years, okay, then go to school. Because if you go to school and you get your degree, you're going to be stuck working a shitty job for the rest of your life until you're about 65, and then hopefully you can retire. Because that's exactly what they teach you in school. There are so many other ways to make money out there. It's insane. There are servers, bartenders, hairstylists that are making $70,000 to $100,000 a year. And then you've got your college students who are in $30,000 of debt, making $45,000 a year for the next 10 years because they're still entry level. And then they're all mad that the person serving them is making more money than them. And it's like, these were all choices. Everybody made choices. You chose to do this and they chose to do that. And guess what? Servers and hairstylists have way better work-life balance than you do at your shitty 9-to-5. If you don't want to be a part of that system, you don't have to be. There are plenty of other options. There are plenty of other trades. There are plenty of digital skills you can learn online totally for free that will pay you worlds more than your shitty degree. Don't go to school.
Well, I didn't go to university, and my life turned out pretty good. So better than, I think, pretty much everybody who did spend a lot of time in university. So I guess sucks for them. I did take one semester of community college and then dropped out. So was it one? Yeah, something like that. I wasn't there for long, and it was a hell of a long time ago, straight out of high school. It wasn't for me. It was not for me. I remember I took an anthropology course, and the professor told me that it was a cultural anthropology course, and the professor told me that you couldn't say that any one theory about the world was true. Like any, so you couldn't point to like a picture of the earth, like from the moon, right? And say, there's actually not an elephant underneath it or a turtle that it's sitting on it. I can see it. And there's no turtle there, right? So if the creation myth is that the earth is on top of a turtle, you cannot say that that's not true. That's any less valid than, reality. And I thought, this might be a giant waste of time for me because I know there's no turtle there. It's just not there. And it seemed to me just like insanely stupid and delusional to pretend. I mean, the professor couldn't possibly have believed that, right? That just every theory is equally valid. He couldn't possibly. I mean, you couldn't know. You can't be alive. You can't have a human brain, right? And be confronted with the evidence and say, oh, well, I mean, it's a toss up. I mean, don't see the turtle, but maybe it's an invisible turtle. You can't have a human brain and not see the distinction there, right? So I thought, yeah, this probably isn't for me because this is insane. This is absurd. I mean, if this is what it is, if it's this irrational all the way through, it seems kind of pointless. What I did is I just read on my own time. And it works out good for me. I think I self-educated reasonably well. Anyway, this chick is right. This elegant lady is right. Should we talk about the Kerry Lake thing? Should we play some of that audio? I mean, I might save this for Friday night. If you guys want me to, let me know in the next few minutes, because I don't think we're going to go that much longer. We've already been going for an hour, and again, I've got like a 5-hour, 4-hour show or something I'll do on Friday night. So if you guys want me to go over this now, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to save it for Friday. This one I do want to see. Okay, let's take a peek.
Charles, you talked about the issues here and how immigration here is at the top, but it also is an economic issue, and It crosses all boundaries. And it is a weakness for President Biden and the Democrats. Dean Phillips talks about this on the trail, and he talks about how Democrats demean MAGA voters. He talked about it with me today, saying that, it's just strange that they're talking about a group of voters like that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's narcissism. I think you've lived in New York long enough, it's maybe a New York thing. Someone punches you, you punch him back harder. That's the way I grew up in Harlem.
Not if the country's at stake, right?
He became president of the United States with that same personality. I don't think that, listen, I think it's worse with Biden calling MAGA. Biden's anger and vitriol and hatred for MAGA is far more worse than President Trump's individual battles with someone who crosses him. That is something that is really detrimental to this country, that the president of the United States despises half of the United States. President Biden, I said earlier today, about a week ago, I had a segment coming up, so I Googled Biden hates MAGA. Nothing but articles after articles after articles. He has expressed hatred for half of the country.
Who's writing those articles?
It doesn't matter.
And it's not.
Because the bottom line is he says it. He has vitriol for them. And so does MSNBC, and so does CNN, and so does the New York Times. They have vitriol for half of the nation. They don't look at them like fellow Americans, and it's unfortunate. They try to paint them as racist. All the things that they do to their fellow Americans who simply want a safe home, a safe community, for the children to have prosperity. They want the same thing, but they demean them all the time. That's why I think Phillips was so intriguing, because he went to a rally to find out for himself. And guess what? Golly, these are some pretty cool people. They're just like us.
Exactly what Jamie Dimon said this week as well. Yeah. And it's smart to understand.
Well, I think he pretty much nailed that. I think he pretty much nailed that. They've got the what's her name? I can't remember. The leftist they always have on there. And her job is just to defend the regime, right? Whether she believes what she's saying. A lot of it, when I've seen her, I haven't really watched Fox News since Tucker left, I have to say, because that's the only guy I watched on there. But when I saw her, I mean, a lot of what she was saying, it was clearly just a matter of just regime support, or when Trump was in office, Democrat Party support, and just never anything that would dissent from that narrative ever. And in fairness, that's what she's paid to do. I'm not saying it's not evil. I'm just saying she's paid to be evil. I think I mispronounced Eddie's name when I was reading his chat earlier. Eddie Hillock. That's not what I said before. Sorry about that, Eddie. I'm going to do better. Now, most of these I haven't looked at yet, so I'm seeing them with you for the first time. I just saw them and thought, well, that might be interesting for a live stream. So, how would you describe this to a time traveler from the 1800s? So, I guess these are furries. So, okay, let's see what these freaky people are up to.
I'm Shitani, my persona is a king cheetah, and I've been a furry since 2012. I'm so grateful to Firecracker for allowing me this opportunity to talk about my fursuit. Use Your Own Eyes fursuits are not a dead art or a thing of the past. There's a very lively, thriving community of us in 2024. You just need to look a little deeper than mainstream furry. Many of us are repeat customers, and my fursuit maker, Magpie Bones, is even busier than ever. When I commissioned my fursuit 10 years ago, there was only one person in the entire furry community who had the skills to build a costume like this. Today, there are so many craftspeople who make Use Your Own Eyes fursuits. This style of costume isn't only a last resort for furries who are neurodivergent or disabled. We have them because we like how they look. Not every fursuiter wants to be a cute and cuddly stuffed animal. Many of us envision.
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean?
These people do understand that none of this is real, right? Like they're not actually these fluffy animals. It's not clear to me that they're able to. It's not clear to me that they understand that. It's not clear to me how anybody could not be embarrassed, I guess, to behave like this. Let's watch a little bit more.
Envision our characters as something wilder. My fursuit was designed specifically to match my persona, right down to the hair, eyes, and glasses she shares with the actual me. I have an in-depth video on my YouTube channel talking about why I chose my fursuit. A Use Your Own Eyes fursuit is not for everyone. That's okay. I didn't choose this based on other people's opinions. I did what was right for me. We know not everybody will like us, and that's part of the fun sometimes. We just ask to keep an open mind, be respectful, and let us be weird animal people in our way.
I think these are people that in the past would have gone to like medieval fairs and stuff and put on like armor or like dressed as like Maid Marian or something. And then they just became more perverted and they put on these fucking retarded costumes, animal costumes. Is that what happened? Somebody let me know. What's your guys' theory on this? I don't know. I just see a bunch of crazy dingbats. Let's see. I think we'll save that. Let's see. Cat Turd says the funniest thing I've ever seen in politics is Nikki Haley giving victory speeches every time she loses. It is weird, right? It is weird. What's the play there? I guess the play is just to hang around with the faith that they're gonna get Trump. That's it, right? I mean, that's what Vivek was saying, that, you know, he was going to be, you know, plan B in case they did. I mean, he said that there were no lengths that the deep state, the establishment, whatever you want to call it, there were no lengths to which they wouldn't go. And by no lengths, he was talking about no lengths, like everything on the table. But then he dropped out. I speculated that it might be because, you know, Trump had said, you know, I want you to be VP. He drops out. He goes and speaks with Trump that night on stage. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen there. But Nikki Haley, yeah, she looks like, I mean, she's obviously the establishment. She's obviously the you know, old money and I guess maybe new money choice. So she's just going to just follow along and hope that Trump slips or, you know, that they get him. It's kind of horrifying. I mean, the whole thing is so surreal right now that you could even really just talk about these kinds of things. like nothing being off the table in terms of getting rid of Trump. And we all know what that means. How did things get to this place? You know? It's strange. I mean, in Canada, you've got Justin Trudeau, who's a totally unique figure in a terrible way in Canadian political history. There's never been anybody as awful and corrupt and divisive as he is. Even his father was not as bad as Trudeau. You know, in the UK, the Conservatives are going to lose in a landslide after 13, 14 years in power. Because, well, Brexit was first and foremost about immigration. Whatever they say was first and foremost about immigration and the people in Britain wanting less of it. The Tories, or the Conservatives in the UK, ramped it up to unbelievable, never before record levels, totally betraying their voter base. Which is, again, these are times that are just unprecedented. There just seems to be a rush to destroy the West, and not just in English-speaking countries either. Let's see what else we got here. There's that idiot. We're not going to look at him again. Here is a Rebel News reporter, Alexandra Lavoie from Rebel News, asking Justin Trudeau if he's going to resign. Let's take a look.
Mr. Trudeau, the federal court has ruled that the Emergencies Act was unconstitutional. Would you resign or apologize to Canadians for violating their rights?
Yeah, that's very typical of Trudeau. He hates Rebel News, by the way, so there's not a chance he's going to answer a question from Rebel News. He despises them. There he is, just arrogantly walks past, gets in, totally unanswerable. He considers himself to be so. I really dislike him. I don't know. You guys have probably picked up on that. I dislike the man who's trying to destroy my country. Here's another Joe Biden goof. And maybe we'll leave the live stream off with this one because it's already, it's 1:30 in the morning here. And I was only planning on coming on for about half an hour to talk about the Texas thing. And then I got roped into this Twitter stuff. But let's just watch this.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the men in America unless you want to get the benefit. We'll teach.
Come again.
Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the men in America unless you want to get the benefit. We'll teach.
I didn't catch that.
Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the men in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Boy, oh boy. Again, I keep saying that I feel like I'm in an alternate universe. It's too weird. Right? It's too weird. Look at those people. What makes it even weirder that man is the president and the media pretends like it's all normal that he should be, and they pretend like he's actually running anything. But clearly he can't be. I mean, he got off the stage from this, and I'm sure they put him straight into the cryogenic chamber to freeze him until the next appearance. Yeah, it's truly baffling. But the even weirder thing is, look at the people behind cheering. He just spouted gibberish.
Teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the men in America unless you want to get the benefit.
So, look, they're like trained seals. They'll yeah, don't, yeah, whatever he said. I mean, I don't know. They keep saying that Trump supporters are a cult. That looks like a cult to me. Now, it kind of sounds like he said, did he say, don't mess with the women or the benefit? Something like that?
Teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
So I'm assuming what he's saying is don't mess with the women of America if you don't want to get the benefit. So that's not making a whole lot of sense. Yeah. Poesy Poet says zombies screaming for more of anything. I think you're right. I think that you're right. Zombies. That's a good way to put it. One more time. Why not?
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Unless you want to get the benefit of messing. I'm assuming he's saying messing with the women of America. It's very, very safe. Very, very strange. Very surreal. Radio Streamer. Hey, Radio Streamer. How you doing, man? He says, what a time to check in. Also, that's Biden for you. Yeah. How anybody could think that man's running anything is just totally beyond me. It's just, how would it even be possible? Like, is this guy able to stay awake for more than 6 hours a day? I don't know. I think you'd have to be more credulous than I anyway. If you can translate that, you may have a full-time job opportunity, Streamer says. Yeah. I mean, it's not a good sign when you have to, like, decipher what your leader is saying. I don't know. It's crazy. Well, if we've got Radio Streamer, and I might go a little bit longer then, even though it's late. I'll go a little bit longer. And we got Posey Poet too. I'll go a little longer if you guys want me to. Not too long, though, because it is Wednesday night. And again, I was only planning to do like half an hour on the Texas thing, but now I'm getting roped into all this Twitter stuff. I do enjoy it, so there's that, but you know. See here, black Democrats file lawsuits against Chicago over illegal immigrants. Voted to be a sanctuary city. Now that it's touching them, now that they're feeling the consequences of these policies, now that they're feeling the consequences of the policies that they voted for, not liking it so much. We'll get into that a bit more on Friday, I think. Oh, dear. Streamer. The downside of being in the White House staffing, though, you may have to change a diaper. Oh, it's not a matter of may have to. That's the thing. It's a matter of definitely have to. Let's see. A few months ago, Columbia Heights residents were asked about rampant shoplifting at their local CVS. Residents sided with the looters. Civilization in decline. That's what I'm saying. Late stage. CVS just announced it is permanently shutting down this store next month. So let's hear. None of this is going to be rational.
Stuck. I mean, it's bad to do. At the same time, they're probably doing it for a reason. They need those things, but they shouldn't just be going in and clearing the shelves because this isn't sustainable for the store.
A lot of folks actually can't afford any of the things in there. I'm not saying that ceiling has to be the solution to that, right? However, I don't know, maybe the city could provide more accessible resources to unhoused or under-income folks that can provide them like hair care, bodily care, hygiene care, etc. That could be an option.
Stuck. I mean, it's bad to do.
Yeah, they're not going to stop stealing. Period. If people can go in and steal with no consequences, they're going to keep doing it. It's beyond me. I mean, these people are having their neighborhoods ruined. The drugstores are leaving. So now they have to travel far away to get, if they need a prescription or just something from a drugstore. Yet they still can't recognize the fundamental flaw in their thinking. Sometimes you have to be tough. It's just the way that it is. You know, people have a habit of being assholes if you allow them to be assholes. It's baffling to me. Baffling. It's mental weakness, I think. You know? Posty Poet says, hang on to your hat, honey, and grab a diaper for the prez. Ugh. Oh, it's so gross. So gross. It's gross that this conversation can even happen, is the thing, right? That things have fallen to that state. These people in this video, I mean, they voted for all of it, and they're just unwilling to admit that they were fucking wrong. Crazy. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This is good. Elon has always got something good to say about wokeness.
Always be wary of any name that sounds like it could come out of a George Orwell book. Okay? That's never a good sign. Because it sounds like, sure, diversity, equity, inclusion, these all sound like nice words, but what it really means is discrimination on the basis of race, sex, and sexual orientation. Always be wary of any name that sounds like
Yeah, I actually went over all of this. You know, all of the euphemisms they use, like social justice and anti-racism, anti-oppression, in my earlier video tonight. And that's why I'm going late with this live stream tonight, because I did a couple of videos earlier, but there's one I did, which you guys should watch, because I think you'd like it. If you're watching this, you'd like it. It's about a doctor in Canada, in Quebec, who has been suspended, I think, for 3 months. Yeah, for 3 months, because he called a biological woman a woman. So a trans man was in, and the doctor told her, look, you are biologically female. Right? Because she wanted him to pretend that she was actually male while trying to provide her with medical service. And it's just, I mean, that's obviously crazy. Like, pretend to be whatever you want to be. Pretend to be a furry animal, right? But medical care is still, that's just science, right? Like, that doesn't change you. Your delusion doesn't change your chromosomes. It doesn't change your physiology, right? So a doctor got suspended by the licensing body, by the College of Physicians, I guess, for just stating reality. That's where we are now, for just stating reality. And I went through, there's the College of Physicians has got a project where they hired something to come up with this MedCans idea for how to basically update healthcare in Canada. And of course, it's all along DEI lines. In fact, the terrifying thing is that they state explicitly, watch the video because they go into it in detail, but they state explicitly that they want more weight on that than they do on medical expertise. I'm not joking. I'm not misrepresenting, right? They explicitly state that in their proposal. So watch that video if you want to know more about it, because, I go into it in a fair amount of detail. Let's see. Posty Poet says there's no science behind crazy. Let's see. Streamer says, sorry, I'm too tired to 4:40 a.m. here. Well, hey, thanks for stopping in, man. We're not going to go much longer. I'm going to have to stop this pretty soon, because it's getting way too late for a weeknight. But Musk is saying there,
always be wary of any name that sounds like it could come out of a George Orwell book.
Yeah. Like anti-racism, right? Anti-racism, anti-oppression. It's all got very, Ministry of Truth feel to it, right? Let's see. Radio Streamer says, I regret not seeing this sooner. Well, you can watch the replay tomorrow. So, it's not going to be that long. It's not going to be 5 hours. I think we'll wrap this up probably in a few minutes. We'll see if we can find one more thing that's interesting here. Here we go. Count Dankula. We will usher in the age of boobocracy. What's he talking about? Milei, that's the new president of Argentina, the libertarian, who's awesome, has a certain taste for the type of women he wants in Argentina's government. I notice a pattern. I notice a pattern too. There's a big, very noticeable pattern. Big, round, bouncy pattern in there. Milei's a boob man. And I fully support him. The age of boobocracy. Count Dankula. You know, there's worse things. 100%. Let's see. This was Twitchy here, trying to justify the Emergencies Act after it's been found unconstitutional still. This is one of those depressing ones where it's a teacher who's completely batshit crazy and is completely reckless and does not care about the mental health of your kids, and somehow still has a fucking job. Okay, that can wait for Friday. Justin Trudeau used the wartime measures to end this. Well, it's now the Emergencies Act. It was the name was changed from the War Measures Act, but yeah, he used it to stop this. This was the danger to the country that he needed the Emergencies Act for, that he needed basically wartime powers for. You know what? I have to play that without the sound because otherwise I'll get a strike on the video. Anyway, it doesn't look like they're trying to overthrow the government, does it? Posty Poet says, trying to justify tyranny. Yep. Nail on head right there. I mean, it's no more complicated than that. That is exactly what it is. This is what they needed to basically put Canada into a state of war for this. Well, they were smearing them as a bunch of racists and white supremacists, even though it was quite diverse. Well, they were smearing them with that, saying that they were trying to burn down apartment buildings, which was false, and all the other false accusations they made. This is what was actually happening. That is how corrupt the Canadian government has become under Justin Trudeau, the Trudeau regime. And unfortunately, Canada's not alone. I mean, you've got serious problems in the States too, which, truth be told, it poses a greater danger to the world than what's happening in Canada. Of course it does. They say that when the United States sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Well, looks like Biden's determined to get the United States to more than sneeze. Poet says the danger was unhappy citizens. The danger was that it was embarrassing for Justin Trudeau. It was a danger to his ego, right? And he saw it as an opportunity to play the tough guy, the strong man. It didn't quite... As things have turned out, it did not work for him the way that he intended. Maybe temporarily for a moment, but not in the long run. In the long run, it hurt him. Poet says it was corrupt way before JT. Look, of course, all governments are corrupt to some extent, right? But Justin Trudeau is unique. He is unique. He is worse than his father, right? Straber says, this is their January 6th, is it? Oh, the humanity. I know. It's pathetic. Keep in mind, this is all after the media decided. So the media in the States after Trump won decided they were no longer going to be objective. They told themselves that they had a responsibility to actually shape opinion and not just report objectively and let people make up their own minds. They literally said that. Right? That was said openly. Right? The Canadian media just copies everything the American media does, and they went the same direction. So the American media, New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, all those, CNN, MSNBC were already biased anyway, but the ones that were supposed to be, like the gray old lady and Washington Post with the uh, democracy dies in the dark, right? They just became activists. And they really shape the news to a great extent to the United States. And then the Canadian corporate media copied them. And they were already leftist anyway. I don't think they needed much of a nudge. They were already, saw themselves as elites, regardless of the fact that, of course, they're not elites in any way. But back to the point of government was always corrupt. Yes, but the Trudeau government is a change, right? It is unique, I think, in Canadian history, at least modern Canadian history. There was always, part of the reason why Canadian politics have been so boring is because Canadians could expect reasonably responsible government, whether it was conservative or liberal, right? And some are better than others, but there were none that appeared to be suicidal like the Trudeau government is. Let's see. Let's keep going. There we go. That one time Justin Trudeau was the smartest person in the room. Yeah, this is the social TV or the social CTV, which is this some dumb, broad fucking morning show where they're all leftists and empty-headed and just, whatever current thing is. That's what they're into. I doubt he was even the smartest person in that room, though, I've got to say. Let's see. Radio streamer says, do you actually think he will be removed next time around? I start to worry about you guys having elections as secure as ours. Our elections as they stand now, unless there's some election change to the rules, which I don't put Trudeau above that at all, right? But they're much more secure than the American elections right now. You don't have the mass mail-in voting. Most people are voting with paper ballots, and it's much more secure. Much more secure. In fact, the United States is unique in how insecure their elections are. I don't think there's any other developed country that has that level of insecurity, election insecurity as the United States. It's obviously intentional, right? That voting machines can be hacked, right? Not requiring signatures. These are all intentional. It's not accidents, right? But I would expect you start seeing these things in other Western countries too, because obviously it works. Not in the good way, right? It works in the terrible, corrupt way. Do I think Trudeau will be removed the next summer? Yeah, I do. I think he's so unpopular now, but he's not changing course at all. He's not correcting anything. He's just plowing ahead even harder. And yeah, I think he's actually going to be less popular than he even is now, which is not popular by the next election. I'm not black pilled. I'm white pilled. I think we're going to be able to get rid of him. Well, Poet's saying, check out the history of PM in Canada and you will find they were all crooks. I'm not arguing with you. I'm not saying that Canadian PMs have been these paragons of virtue, right? So, it's not an argument here. I'm just saying that Trudeau is unique. I think you've got to give me that. He is different. He's a different creature than we've seen before. The other Canadian PMs, I never got the sense that they actually hated the country. No other PM said that Canada has no core identity, right? That was projection from Trudeau. He has no core identity. He's not a Canadian. He's a citizen of the world. That's how he sees himself. That's why he loves the people in Davos so much. No other Canadian prime minister said that Canada was the first post-national country, right? Again, he's just projecting his own characteristics on the country, right? He sees himself as a citizen of the world, not as a Canadian. He is different. So we're going to have to agree to disagree there, Posey put, but I like to have different opinions in the chat. So I appreciate it and keep it up. I mean that, and I mean that sincerely. Let's see. Radio Streamer says, I hope so. He would be a little Hitler if he could. Well, he also already is kind of a little Hitler, but I think he'd be a full-on Hitler if he could, or maybe a full-on Stalin. I mean, that's no better. In fact, it might even be worse. Here's something that's kind of, I mean, this is quite touching from Sean Strickland. I mean, we're used to him. Like we saw the videos of him at the UFC 297 in Toronto, and it was hilarious, you know, calling the journalists commies and you vote for Trudeau, you steal people's bank accounts. It was pretty funny. This is a little more serious, actually. It's quite touching, actually, and it's kind of profound too. So I want to show this to you guys.
We live in a matrix where like society actively tries to numb you. They actively try to say, hey, when you wake up at 4 a.m. and you have to go lay rebar in LAX and you don't make enough money, even though you work an 8-hour job with overtime, you don't make enough money to raise a family. So guess what? Now your wife also has to work a job. And don't worry, the school system will raise your kids. And all while they do that, they beat you into the fucking dirt, and they say, hey, but you know what? You could try this new vodka, Jack Daniels. It's fucking great. Goes down smooth. And it's so difficult in life not to want to reach towards, even if it's a social media addiction, even if it's a sex addiction. It's so difficult in life for the average man to go work his ass off, come home, and still not have enough. And all you got to do is take a drag, take a hit, take a drink, and for that split moment, the worries go away. Yep. It's such a fucking struggle.
See what I mean? That's a different side of him than I've seen, you know? It's right. You know, here's a new vodka. You know, Jack Daniels goes down smooth. Don't think about anything. It's true. It's absolutely true. Let's see. We get one more thing, then maybe we'll call it. Radio Streamer says, oh man, I love this guy. He gives no shits about political correctness. Yep. And that's getting to be more and more of a popular thing. People just having some fucking balls, you know, having some courage, whether it's men or women. And it's becoming like Strickland was not punished for the things that he said, those very politically incorrect things that he said. That's important. That's very important. Bud Light did not complain about what he said, right? Because Bud Light is sponsoring UFC now. A lot of people complain about that, but you know, I agree with Tim Pool on it. That's a victory. They decided, okay, we're going to actually put our name behind UFC, and that is behind what the athletes say. They change sides. That's a victory. That's a victory right there. You know, that's a win, in my opinion. So anyway, let's see if we can find one more thing. I don't want to run through everything I've got set for. This is kind of funny. Maybe we'll end with this. What a bastard. I love it. All right. Richard Freeland, blah, blah, blah. Got a lot of stuff. Well, I'll save that one for Friday, I think. Okay, we're going to end it with this one. Matt Walsh, I would support therapy if it went like this.
So, I'm not the kind of therapist that pussyfoots around. I like to dig in fast and I give feedback. Stop fidgeting. What are you doing with your arm?
Nothing. I'm just nervous.
Put your hands in your lap. Focus. Sit up. Good posture sends positive messages to the brain. We're here to work. So, what are your issues? Give them to me.
Well, I am sad about this breakup I just went through.
She left you.
Yes.
And now you feel rejected and unlovable, and you can't understand why she no longer loves you.
Yes.
You do know that she's not the only source of love for you in the world.
But I want her love.
We don't get everything we want in life. You don't get to have her love. That's it. End of story. Next issue. So, I'm not the kind of therapist that pussyfoots around.
So that's a great way to end it. You don't get everything you want in life. But you know, there is a beauty. Now that I just watched that, there is a beauty to that and a wisdom to that, right? Is that the truth will set you free. And I truly believe this. Truly believe this. You know, like I never would have been able to quit drinking like 6 years ago if I hadn't been able to accept the truth, right? And interesting story around that, actually. I'll tell you guys one day. I'll tell you guys one day about that. But there's a beauty in accepting the truth because the truth will set you free. You want to live a truthful life. It's important, right? It's the only ethical way to live, or you can't live ethically and genuinely be of value to the people around you unless you are honest and real. You know, lying to people about their own flaws. I'm not saying you have to go out of your way to point out people's flaws, but if they ask you, say something, right? Like, for instance, like maybe, am I drinking too much or something? Or do I need to lose some weight or something like that? It's not a kindness to lie to them. You know, you're not doing it out of kindness for them. You're doing it out of cowardice yourself. So the point of this is that I think that there's a beauty in knowing the truth because it frees you. It frees you then to act unencumbered by your delusions, right? You know, there's a value in that. We seem to have lost that as a society. We seem to have decided that, no, it's better to lie to people. When people tell you that, you know, when people are pretending to be something that they're not, the kind thing, the moral thing to do is to lie to them and tell them that they really are. No, not a kindness, not ethical, not moral. If you truly care about somebody, you'll tell them the truth. And if you truly care about yourself, you'll tell yourself the truth. Because then you're free to actually do something positive instead of being held down by the chains of your delusion or your cowardice. Not that I'm like some super brave person. I'm not. But, and I wasn't planning on that rant either. That's all right off the top of my head, but I believe every word of it. So with that, I think we will call it a night. And an hour and 42 minutes, that's a short one for us. But yeah, I'm afraid there's no way around it. So thanks for stopping in, everybody. Anybody who's not subscribed, please subscribe. You can see more of my content. I'm putting out a ton of videos right now during the week, not live streams, but just my regular edited, you know, properly curated videos that are, you know, anywhere from 5 to, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes. I'm putting out hopefully about 10 of them or more a week. And yeah, good night. Hope to see you guys on Friday night. Again, we'll be going a bit earlier, maybe like 10 o'clock, maybe even 9:30. But I don't think we'll be going 11:30. So hopefully to see you a little bit. Hope to see you a little bit earlier. See you Friday night. Everybody have a great night. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.